That's me tapping on my table here. Okay.
Okay, we're ready to go when you are, Mayor Edie.
Okay. Well, good evening, everyone.
Worship.
Ask for the calling of the roll, please.
Thank you. Mayor Edie,
Present.
Reeve Eamon,
Present.
Councillor Koulis,
Present.
Councillor Evans,
Present.
Councillor Hines,
Present.
Councillor Jemison,
Present.
Councillor Sydney.
Present.
We have a quorum all accounted for, Mayor Edie.
Thank you. A declaration of opportunity interest and the general nature thereof. None. Okay, first motion. That the minutes of the regular meeting of council held electronically on September 22nd, 2020 be adopted as printed. Need a mover, please. Councillor Hines, seconded by Councillor Koulis. Any questions or comments on the minutes? Okay, not hearing any. All in favor? Carried. That the minutes of the committee of the whole meeting held electronically on September 28th, 2020 be adopted as printed. Again, we need a mover, please. Councillor Evans, second by Reeve Emo. Again, any questions or comments? Okay. Hearing none. All in favor? Carried. That the communication from the town of Amstersburg dated September 21st, 2020, requesting that the province of Ontario consider extending the compliance deadline stated in section 14.4 of 0 Reg 19111, which requires designated public sector organizations to meet the compliance standard by a minimum of the 1 year to at least January 1st, 2022. And further, that the province of Ontario consider providing funding, support, and training resources to meet these compliance standards. Over, please. Councillor Hines, seconded by Councillor Koulis. Any questions or comments on this? Councillor Hines.
Yes, Your Worship. I'm just wondering if we could ask Clerk Balmer where we're at with our accessibility. I know he's done a lot of work on that, and I take it this relates to the kind of technical part of it. So could we ask him where that might be at?
Can ask if he wants to reply.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Edie, for you, members of council. So as far as the town of Renfrew's progress towards its accessibility file, we're in very good shape. We certainly have kept current on all the different policies through regulations that have come forward. This particular motion from Amhertsburg is something, is a topic that's getting some discussion across the municipal sector right now. Effective January 1st of 2021, OREG 19111 states that municipalities must be compliant, basically their website compliant, to conform with WCAG 2.0 level AA. There's a lot of, I guess, misinformation about what actually that designation is. There's a lot of different definitions to it. There's a move across the province to have everyone declare that they're not. Even the city of Ottawa has given that advice through a meeting we recently attended. So our website is current, but when you go to do checkers on the website, document checkers, there's always going to be errors pop up. We're in the midst as well as looking at software that allows us to take any document and convert it into an accessible, fully accessible document. So, so as these compliance requirements come forth, I think the municipalities across the province want to make sure that we fully understand you know, what it is that the expectations are clearly set forth. When we're filling out compliance reports, which we must do every year, you know, what assurances do we need to be able to check mark, yes, we're fully compliant? And what is the repercussions if that check mark is no? So we're certainly trying to go in lockstep with the rest of municipalities and trying to fully understand the regulation, what again is the requirements of municipalities, and ensuring that you know, we're confident in our ability to say yes or no to our compliance in our compliance audit. So,
Any further questions?
Thank you.
Hearing none, all in favor? Carried. So the communication from QP Ontario Division requesting that the town of Brantford proclaim October 22nd, 2020 as Child Care Worker and Early Childhood Educator Appreciation Day be received and endorsed. Over, please. Councillor Koulis, second by Councillor Sidney. Any questions or comments on this? Councillor Sidney? Oh, okay. I just seen your hand moving there. I wasn't sure. Okay, all in favor? Carried. Let the minutes from the Planning Advisory Committee meeting held September 1st, 2020 be received. Mover, please. Councillor Hines, seconded by Councillor Evans. Turn it over to Councillor Hines for the report.
Okay, this was our meeting of September the 1st. So some of this information has already flowed to council, and there is another item. It's actually our next item, which is the revised site plan securities framework that also relates to these minutes. We did have a discussion in regard to a patio encroachment agreement at 302 Raglan Street. We went back and forth with that, and as patio season is somewhat over, and we didn't really ever have able to get an agreement. And this was the site where the sign was really close to the rail of the patio. Anyway, it's been somewhat resolved because, as I said, patio season is over, and the structure has been taken down. So planning will be following up with that early in the spring so that we are able to come up with a viable solution to that encroachment on the sidewalk in 2021. In regard to portable garages, this is a bit of old news for you. Council did deal with us at our meeting on September the 8th, and bylaw number 62/2020 was passed in regard to an updated version of the portable garage regulation. You can see at that meeting, we did have a public meeting of planning to go over the portable garage regulation and zoning bylaw amendment. And we did have Karen Hanford speak to that. For the most part, she was in favor of the bylaw because it does give, you know, the town a way to respond to complaints about portable garages. And so we have dealt with that, as I said, at council. We did have a fair discussion at that time in regard to portable garages and understanding the wording in it in the bylaw about what is front lot, what is back lot. So we've resolved that all, and it is part of the bylaw now, exactly what those terms mean. We did speak to the site plan for the Lupine apartments on 475 Barnett Boulevard. And as I said, this is there's another document before council tonight that relates to that. So basically, at our meeting on September 22nd, bylaw number 63/2020 was passed, and in regard to the site plan in phase 1. And so, as I said, that's coming forward tonight. When it comes to the downtown A-frame signs, we're still working through that. We did send a request off to the Finance Committee for their consideration of the potential funding. We'll be certainly working with that in the spring of 2021. We also, at each meeting under new and unfinished business, have an update from the planner in regard to new applications or ongoing development or upcoming items. And certainly we were talking about outdoor patios. We had some concerns in regard to drainage and how the track at St. Joe's, the new track that they're putting in, what kind of drainage and design and fencing that would have. Some of the neighbors in the neighborhood were interested in that. Oddly enough, that type of development does not require any approval from the town, but certainly planning has looked into those questions and been able to relate to the neighbors in regard to their concerns about drainage, which we do have a say in. Encroachment agreements, we're still working on some wording in that, and that'll come forward in the very near future so that we're ready for the spring of 2021. The financial statements were reviewed and there's no notable concerns. We're just ticking right along in regard to revenues and expenditures. We did not have a closed meeting, and the next meeting was to be October the 5th, but there were no planning issues to deal with at that meeting, which was last week, and we just had a committee of the adjustment meeting at that time. So that's the report of the meeting for September the 1st. And as I said, unfortunately, these minutes didn't come at the September 8th meeting. That was a little quick for us, or last meeting, because it would have made a little more sense to you. But certainly you received all of those reports and the planning comments on those two bylaws that came before council.
Okay, any further questions or comments? Vivimo.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to the chair. Page 3, 8.1, the last sentence or last paragraph. Any structure that is in existence prior to a bylaw being passed will be classified as legally non-conforming as per the appropriate section, and then legal non-conforming status survives even when replacing, if taken down, replaced due to disrepair. So that I wasn't aware of that. That's something that we should be aware of. And I guess if there is one that's already up and it's in a spot that's not comfortable to the neighbors, there's not much they can do about it, or we can do about it at this point, if I read this correctly.
That is correct, but certainly the planning department would be working with the residents to kind of explain the reasoning in that report. And yeah, I don't know if Planner Withers is here, if he would have any further comments, or Director Aslin on that, but we weren't about to have people that already have them up and such take them down at this point. But they will be subject to disrepair. If they are in disrepair, then certainly they would be asked to replace them, or certainly remove the one that's flapping in the wind.
Director Aslin, did you want to say a few words on that?
Yes, through the mayor, I think Revimo is correct in that it would be considered legal non-conforming as they were in place prior to the change in the bylaw. So typically, if there's any issues, we would approach them voluntarily. Usually, people are pretty reasonable if their facilities are in a disrepair to make modifications to it, and at that time we would ask them to move it, although no legal obligation for ones that are in place.
Any other questions? Okay, hearing none, all in favor? Carried. Okay. The Planner Weathers report dated October 9th, 2020 concerning revised site plan securities framework, Lupine Apartments Phase 1 be received. Further, the Renfrew Town Council support the revised securities framework for site plan agreements on an ongoing forward basis outlined as follows. Servicing proceeding under the site plan agreement, no early servicing agreement, 100% off-site works, 50% on-site works. Number 2, servicing proceeding under the early servicing agreement, 50,000 security, followed by a site plan agreement for remaining works. 100% of both on-site and off-site work remaining at the site plan agreement registration. Further, Renfrew Town Council maintain the recommended security for the Lupine Corporation development of 475 Barnett Boulevard, roll number 4748-000-020-15550 in the amount of 100% of the value of all works remaining at the time of execution of the site plan agreement. Further, Renfrew Town Council received the commencement of construction activity letter dated October 7, 2020 as information. Further, Renfrew Town Council received the executed early servicing agreement dated October 7, 2020 as information. Move over on that, please. Councillor Hines, seconded by Councillor Jamison. Again, Director Asplin, did you want to give an explanation of this, if you could?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor Eady and Council. From time to time, the department is challenged to consider options with respect to retaining securities for both subdivisions and site plans. So our existing policy is that we retain 100% of the value of the works on site and off site. That's been in practice ever since I got here in 2005. And it was fairly consistent through the different municipalities. So with the Lupine development, we did have a request to consider alternatives to move to 100% securities off-site and to go to 50% of the securities on-site. So as the report indicates in the background section, we did a poll of the municipalities, and there has been some significant changes over the last 5 years, where many places are still retaining 100% off-site, and for subdivisions and on-site, the securities, their municipalities are taken as 50%. I guess the premise is when a developer posts the security of 50% on-site, then they proceed with the development, and they usually accomplish successfully at least half or more of the works on site before there's any concerns about default. So from the policy perspective, the municipality or the staff are recommending that we go to this policy of retaining 100% off-site works and move from 100% to 50% of on-site works. So that's the item number 1 in the recommendation. There's a slight twist in the way Renfrew treats the development under an early servicing agreement. So the town of Renfrew does have a process of early servicing in which the developer would post a security of $50,000, and they would proceed with on-site works at their own risk. And at some point, when they're in the early servicing agreement, they're not able to request building permits for any development, because we feel that would be placing too much risk prior to the registration of development. So they post the $50,000 and they proceed with building the infrastructure. And when they're ready to register the development, then we calculate the value of any remaining works that they have not constructed, and we have their engineers approve and prove that the infrastructure they have installed is up to standard, and then we retain 100% of the remaining value. So the letter from Lupine included in this report makes a request that under the early servicing agreement, they were looking at having the town consider only retaining 50% of the value of the remaining works. And we did have a conversation with other municipalities and with the developers at Lupine, and provided a copy of this report indicating that was something staff wasn't prepared to recommend to council. And in an email today from Lupine, we have a statement here that they believe the conclusions and recommendations are well balanced and reasonable in the way they're presented in this report. Just in consideration of the research we've done with other municipalities, and this policy framework allowing them to proceed with an early servicing agreement does provide significant relief from them financially in not having to post securities until they're ready to register. And in this case, even in their letter that they've provided with this report, is they anticipate completing the majority of the site works under the early servicing agreement. So when it comes time to register and we look at the works that are incomplete, there shouldn't be much work on site that is incomplete that requires the posting of securities. So we would retain at that point 100% of any of the value of any remaining works. And they seem, although they may not fully agree with that, doesn't accept their request as written, but in their confirmation email, they do believe that is the conclusions or recommendations are well balanced and reasonable. So I'd expect that if council moves forward, that there wouldn't be too many issues. We're looking at this report as sort of setting a new framework for any site developments from this point on, and it becomes the standard. I know the last time we had a discussion about securities was back in the Toyota days. So now in 2020, canvassing the other municipalities, I think we're right where we should be with the endorsement of these new policies. So attached to this report, we also have a copy of the early servicing agreement, as well as a letter of authorizing commencement of the work. And as you'll see in the documents, the requirements for offsite work is contingent upon the developer obtaining an environmental compliance approval from the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks. And so no offsite works will take place until ECAs are in place. But we also have contacted the Ministry of Environment to try to persuade them to get the environmental compliance approvals, to get them progressing so that development is not held up. So we'll work with the developer and the MOE or the MECP to try to make sure that the development is not held back due to that purpose. So given that, I'm not sure if there's any questions on the report.
Councillor Koulis.
At the risk of sounding ignorant, I wonder if you could explain for my benefit and anybody else that might be watching or listening, the difference between off-site and on-site work.
Sure. The off-site work is work that is done in the municipal right-of-way. So it's done under the road, or it's a sewer that becomes essentially municipal property. It's owned by the municipality after the development is constructed. So similar, like subdivisions, for instance, the developer will build all the roads and water and sewer systems and then turn them over to the town. So the town taxpayers remain on the hook for the repair and replacement and the quality of that infrastructure from the point that it's constructed. Obviously, work that is done on or off-site work is work that we own, and that has the possibility of interfering with traffic and pedestrian movement and the public services that are available to all. On-site works are works that are totally on the property of the developer and under the full control of the developer, and public are generally prohibited from going onto their property unless it's through a developed site plan. So there's more of a risk associated with the infrastructure in the right of way. And we need to make sure that that is constructed to a higher standard and make sure that it's completed. And that's why we retain 100% of the securities for offsite works.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Revimo.
Yes, on page 3 of the report, right at the top, it says 3 and 4. I'm assuming that was a typo and it was meant to be 1 and 2, and we're not missing 1 and 2.
No, that comes from 1 and 2 are on the recommendations
Right.
on the front page, and then that continues on to be 3 and 4, does it not?
No, they look exactly the same. I put them beside each other, so I just wanted to make sure that
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Yeah,
So I
All
no, that's correct. Your
Just part of
number
the
1 is
report.
number 1, and yeah, so 3 and 4 is actually 1 and 2. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
That's part of the report.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
Yes.
that's an urban myth that could start if we didn't correct it.
Okay. Thanks.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, hearing
Just,
none.
Your worship?
Yes, Senator. Councillor Hines.
Yeah, just in the report or in the agreement, there is some consideration for no use of 8th Avenue for any construction activity. I'm wondering if the director could speak to that. I think we've been very sensitive to that area, and I certainly appreciate that recognition by Lupine Development.
Yes, certainly any construction project that is adjacent to an existing development has a lot of sensitivities. At one point, there was an alternative being proposed to use 8th Avenue for construction access for the development, and that was something that didn't come from the developer. It came from the contractor, and we wanted to make it very, very clear that that impacts to the existing residents on 8th Street are to be minimized, and Lupine see that as a very appropriate. They don't want to place any burden on the 8th Street residents, beyond what is necessary to do their quality development.
Great.
Any other questions? Okay, hearing none. All in favor? Carried. The Treasurer Riley's report dated September 22nd, 2020, concerning an agreement with the Township of McNabb Brae site for the use of the Town of Renfrew Animal Impoundment Facility be received. Over, please. Councillor Sidney, seconded by Councillor Hines. Is there any questions or comments on this? Pretty straightforward. Okay, hearing none. All in favor? Carried. The bylaw 70-2020 being a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute an agreement with the Township of McNabb Brae site respecting the use of the impoundment facility at 529 Lisgar Avenue be read a first time and deemed to have been read a second time. Over, please. Revimo, second by Councillor Jamison. Again, any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor? Carried. The bylaw 70-2020 being a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute an agreement with the Township of McNabb Brae site respecting the use of the impoundment facility at 529 Lisgar Avenue be read a third time and be passed. Over, please. Councillor Sidney, second by Councillor Hines. Last chance. Any comments? Councillor Hines, then Revimo. You're on mute, Councillor Hines.
Yes, Your Worship, I just want to say that this is certainly another example of the town of Renfrew partnering with other municipalities to share facilities, and for which we are paid an amount for that use. So I think this is a good agreement, and it shows a lot of cooperation between municipalities.
Yeah. Revimo.
I was just going to assure that it's not uncommon. We've done it with other adjoining municipalities in the past, and it makes sense to extend the contract to another neighbor Again, I think it also helps strengthen our relationship with them should there be other opportunities.
Any other comments? Hearing none. All in favor? Carried. The treasurer report dated October the 7th, 2020, concerning the open competition to fill the position of compensation revenue clerk in accordance with the town of Renfrew hiring policy 3-19 meeting. Please. Councillor Jemison, second by Councillor Sidney. Treasurer Raleigh, did you want to say a few words on this?
Thank you, Mayor Eadie. I think the report speaks to itself. The one thing I did learn from this is that I don't think this is the time of year I should be taking vacation, because it was about this time last year when I returned from vacation to find out our deputy treasurer was leaving to go to McNabb Braeside. And during vacation this year, I find out that our compensation revenue clerk is leaving to go to the city of Pembroke. In both cases, they're career advancement moves. And I actually met with Ms. Eve today and congratulated her and wished her all the best. This is as it says in the report, a key position, performing all the payroll and benefit related functions, as well as all the water billing and water related functions of the organization as the chief person responsible. And then there's other things that go with that too, which is the benefit administration includes registering new employees for all the benefit plans, answering all questions about benefit coverages, coordinating the short-term sick leave plan that we have, coordinating that with Cowan when it comes to sick leave adjudication and so on. So it's a key position. Jen will be missed. She's been here for about 5.5 years now, but she is moving on to, as I said, the city of Pembroke, where she will be taking on a new role as deputy treasurer for the city. So it does create a gap. The recommendation is twofold. This is something we learned going back a couple of years when we recruited an assistant general foreman, that there's always a possibility that the successful applicant may be an internal candidate, which automatically creates another vacancy. And if that were the case here, of course, you go through the process and interview and screen, and if it's an internal candidate, then I have to come back to council once again at the following meeting to declare the position vacant, which sometimes could be up to 2 or 3 weeks, depending on the timing of council meetings. But the recommendation is that I be authorized to advertise both internally and externally, interview and fill the position, and further that if there's an internal candidate that's successful for this position, that position automatically be declared vacant, or is declared vacant as part of this recommendation, so that I can immediately start advertising and filling that too, because there's the subsequent one could be a member of the CUPE bargaining unit, which requires a 14-day posting requirement internally and externally. So that's just to try to expedite that process a little bit.
Any questions? Rebimo and then Councillor Sidney.
Thank you. I'm very glad that our employees have enough training and experience that they're coveted by other municipalities on one hand. On the other hand, I'm not as glad. Just a very quick question. Given some of the reports we've had recently, is there the opportunity for this position to add to the job description prior to it going out? Maybe asking for a certification in HR. There's a chippy or a chirpy. I can't remember what the letters indicate, so that they could take on more of that responsibility and then maybe move something from there to somewhere else. So I'm just trying to get a little bit towards the future. Having said that, I don't have a time monitoring chart where we've monitored everybody's activities. So I'm just asking that question out of curiosity.
Treasurer Raleigh.
Through you, Mayor Eadie. It's certainly something we considered, Revimo. The difficulty is that the functions of payroll administration and human resources typically are separate and distinct, and the two should not overlap. In a smaller organization like ours, that's one of the issues we've had. The report that Mr. Fournier prepared, in fact, has highlighted the fact that we do require an HR person. One of the reasons being is that overlap with, on the payroll side of things, you have a lot of personal information. On the HR side of things, you're not supposed to be looking at the individual person. You're supposed to be looking at the positions, regardless of who the person is. And there's that internal conflict almost. So the two functions are typically performed by separate people. What I will be looking for in this position is someone that might be a it's the Canadian Payroll Association, someone who's certified in that shows that they've got some experience in the payroll administration part of it. It's difficult to find someone who's got the combination of payroll and water, because water is a big component here. Ms. Eve is responsible for not just the billings, but also in preparing assistance in preparing the annual budgets and the annual forecasts and capital budgets for water and wastewater as well. So it's a fairly heavy position to begin with, and I think I'm going to perhaps rely on Mr. Fournier's recommendation to pursue someone with an HR designation as a standalone position.
Thank you.
Councillor Sidney.
I just basically wanted to let Treasurer Riley know that dealing with Miss Eve over the years, she's definitely a knowledgeable individual, and I wish her all the best and want to thank her for her time. And mirroring a little bit about what Treasurer Riley said, and again with Revimo, that we seem to be a good training facility, and we end up losing a lot of great people, but that just shows the great leadership that we do have here in Renfrew, and I wish her all the best.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, hearing none. All in favor? Carried. That the council declare the position of compensation revenue clerk to be vacant and authorize the treasurer to advertise, interview, and fill the position. And further that, should an internal candidate be successful applicant for the position of compensation revenue clerk, then the applicant's position be declared vacant and the treasurer be authorized to advertise, interview, and fill the position. Over, please. Councillor Hines, second by Councillor Sidney. Okay, any questions or comments further to this? Okay, hearing none. All in favor? Carried. The Clerk Bulmer's report dated October 9th, 2020 concerning the store hours bylaw temporary changes be received. A mover, please. Councillor Jamison, second by Councillor Evans. Maybe ask Clerk Bulmer to give us a short report on this.
Thank you, Mayor Eady, members of council. You'll recall, excuse me, back earlier this summer, a very similar report came across the council table, essentially requesting the same level of relief. That relief request was generated by a couple of major local retailers here in town. It was granted in June of 2020 with an expiration of September the 8th, 2020. For all intents and purposes, I think the relief was well received. The town received no complaints during that period of time. Unfortunately, the relief expired prior to the retailers taking a look at it and determining that they wish to extend it because of the ongoing pandemic. Of course, I'll remind council that the temporary changes were a direct result of the COVID-19 pandemic, whereby stores were looking for some more flexibility, some added hours to what they call smooth out the customer base, to offer more opportunities, and of course try to cut down on queuing, etc. Again, the same two major retailers, and it's in the report, No Frills and Walmart, had approached the town back late September, requesting permission to extend. I did advise them at the time that their relief had terminated and they were to go back to regular store hours immediately, pending council's revisit of this request. So essentially what we've built into the report, and this has went to the Administration Economic Development Tourism Committee, is the exact same relief. So that would be 2 extra hours on Saturday night, 2 extra hours opening hours on Sunday morning, and extended 2 hours on Sunday night for a total of 6 hours. The Walmart request did ask for a little bit beyond that, but I thought it would be best to stick with council's original relief, showing consistency for that continuation. The only difference with this report and the last one is we did receive albeit an unsigned letter of concern or complaint, which I've attached to the report for council's information, and certainly if it weighs on council's decision at all. The other aspect of this report is that we've made the temporary changes in effect until January 30th, 2021. As we know, the month of December is fairly wide open in our store hours bylaw, and having it to the end of January allows a little more time to reconsider again, and not having to do it in the month of December where we have reduced meeting schedules. And it's a little more difficult to make that timely decision. The only other thing I would suggest, and I think the committee was supportive of it, is maybe taking a look at the bylaw in its entirety. As a revisit, the bylaw is 13 years old and is probably due to be at least looked at again. Store hours bylaws are getting to be fewer and fewer across the province, but we have one, and again, it's functioned well and served us well for the past 13 years, and certainly there's flexibility within it for council to make decisions, whether it's a special event or special circumstances. And again, the relief that is provided for the month of December, which is typically one of the busiest shopping periods. So if there's any questions, I'll try to answer.
Any questions? Councillor Evans and Councillor Coulis and Councillor Hines. Councillor Evans, you're up. You're on mute, Councillor Evans.
There we go. Sorry about that. Clerk Bulmer, in that committee, were there any objections to the letters that were read or by the good folks at Walmart and the No Frills grocery chain? No doubt those two businesses alone see thousands of people coming in throughout the day, and some of their points being that it certainly spreads out the crowd the extra few hours beyond what we're going to propose, their extension from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. on the weekends only, Saturday, Sunday. Just simply bowing to what they're saying would be a better fit for their operations during this particular awkward time of cleaning and sanitizing and limiting the number of people that are coming into the store at any particular time. So I've read their arguments here and went from one of their lawyers. Was there any sort of merit or thought against their suggestions?
Well, I wouldn't speak for the committee, but the committee did review it. And as in the report, the committee supports the recommendation contained therein, so supports the extended temporary relief. Notwithstanding that, as I mentioned at the first of my report, during the period of June to September, on the initial period of relief, the town received no objections, no complaints, no criticisms concerning the extended hours.
Councillor Coulis.
Thank you, Your Worship. It may seem frivolous, but you have this thing ending on January 30th. Clerk Balmer, is there a reason for that? A Saturday rather than a Sunday, when this is really a Saturday-Sunday issue?
It was just basically picking the end of the month. There's no significance to it. It's just an end date. It's just the end of January. So again, it just allows the month of January to revisit it, and allows the retailers an opportunity to submit requests for even an additional extension if the pandemic is still not resolved and they feel that these measures are still advantageous to their customer base. But no significance in the date otherwise. It's just as opposed to ending it at the end of December is a little more difficult to entertain an extension if that was the case.
Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Hines.
I was just going to ask if the committee is undertaking a review of this for a report to council, before the end of January. I would hope that would happen, and then we wouldn't have to be dealing with extensions unless they find the bylaw to be fine and dandy. And I just wanted to say, just for clarity, that this bylaw relates to all the businesses, correct?
Yes, it's a bylaw governing retail business, so
Yeah.
obviously there's exemptions in that. But it does relate to all retail business. And as far as the review of the bylaw, again, that's something that I threw out there. If it was certainly something that the committee wanted to do, or certainly council wants to do, the bylaw again has served us well for 13 years with very little, if any, complaints. So I think the review would be: is it still? I guess a question is: it still? Does the town of Renfrew still wish to have a store hours bylaw in place, period, as opposed to making changes in it? I think it's the next step would be to look at its existence
Validity.
as opposed to its content.
I just wanted to make sure that that people understood it wasn't just because Walmart and No Frills wrote the request that it related just to their businesses. It is an overall town businesses bylaw.
That's correct. Yes.
Thank you.
Just a bit of a comment, maybe, or an observation as to, do we have to put a end date on this, or can we just leave it open until the review is done? Because I think, I think part of this bylaw is also the historical mentality of Renfrew and the way that it was set up with being closed on Sunday and stuff like that. And now we're looking at we're in a pandemic where we want to generate revenue, we want to generate the economy, we want to have people, potentially make more money at working longer hours. I know there's probably some kind of personnel issues and stuff internally with any organization, so that's more of their issue. But as opposed to having it end on January 30th, the likelihood of the pandemic being over by the end of January 30th, and I know they're going to review it, but with Christmas coming and all of that stuff, can it go longer, or can we just change the bylaw to read that until pending review? Is there?
Yeah, my suggestion, because it's a temporary relief of a bylaw, I don't like to see it go out too far. Otherwise, I would recommend a actual bylaw amendment to change it with some really, more secure wording, I guess, in that this is a temporary change through resolution, which is, in my review of it, is just that. It's a temporary change. It's a short-term change. I think if we're looking to do that, I would come back with a bylaw amendment and putting in some sort of wording, whether it was a declaration by the province or by district health unit that the pandemic was officially over. But it's certainly perhaps the next go around that could be the case. But certainly it's council's prerogative what relief is given, what the timing of that relief is. And but for now we thought, well, let's get through the end of the year, give us a buffer month to be able to readdress any requests that may come forth for even a third extension, or an opportunity to look at the bylaw and its whole and see if it's still a valuable tool for the municipality, or if it's certainly become antiquated and needs to be seriously looked at.
No, that makes sense. Thank you. I just wanted to see where we could go with that, and it'd be interesting to see what other municipalities are doing.
Okay, any other questions or comments?
Just at that point, then if the only request for these two operations, then why not grant them what they're asking for? Why limit them today when they believe, both of them combined are major employers of the town, and they're obviously providing a service. I don't think that their request to open with an extra hour earlier in the day or in the evening, their market research says that it's worth it to them, that they would be providing a proper service. And I would ask for a recorded vote as well, please.
Okay. Any other final questions or comments? Okay, hearing none. Asking for a recorded vote, please.
Okay, so a recorded vote on a motion to provide temporary relief to the store hours bylaw. And again, just for clarification, those hours are an extension of 2 hours on Saturday evening from 6 till 8. An opening 2 hours earlier on Sunday morning at 8 a.m. instead of 8 or 10 a.m. and a closure of 8 p.m. on Sunday evening as opposed to 6 p.m. So additional 6 hours per week. So a recorded vote.
Yeah, Councillor Evans, I guess, wants to say something.
Would any of the members of this particular committee not want to consider or have those hours changed to reflect what they're asking for in these letters? Would anybody object to it? That's what I'm saying.
But just for clarification, one of the retailers asked for the same continuation, that being no frills. It was only Walmart that asked for a bit different. And again, it was my recommendation to stick with the original relief as it seemed to have generated no community concerns. Certainly, this is council's bylaw. You know, you could even entertain a motion, notice of motion to repeal it at our next meeting or change it to whatever hours, you know, you want to consider, but that's just a recommendation. So there's certainly no limitations.
Okay. We'll proceed with the vote, please.
So a recorded vote as on the motion as stated. Reeve Eamon,
In favor?
Councillor Koulis,
In favor?
Councillor Evans,
In favor?
Councillor Hines,
In favor?
Councillor Jemison,
In favor.
Councillor Sydney,
In favor?
Mayor Eady.
I'm in favor.
Motion's carried.
Yep. Okay, the Renfrew Town Council extend the following temporary changes to Boulevard Bylaw number 20-2007 in order to provide retail business establishments more flexibility in serving its customers and the greater community during the COVID-19 pandemic. On Saturday of each week, no later than 8 p.m. and shall remain closed until at least 8 p.m. on Sunday. And on Sunday of each week, no later than 8 p.m. and shall remain closed until at least 5 a.m. on Monday following. Further, that these temporary changes be in effect up to and including January the 30th, 2021. Over, please. Review, seconded by Councillor Sidney. Any further questions on this? Clerk Bulmer.
Just for clarification, the recorded vote that was requested was on to receive the report. So obviously now this is the motion to provide that temporary relief. So if certainly it's open to be added as a recorded vote as well.
Okay. Councillor Evans, do you wish to have it recorded again?
It would serve no purpose, thank you, but
Okay. Okay. Any questions or comments on this? Hearing none. All in favor? Carried. Let the minutes of the Waste Management Committee meeting held September 14th and October 5th be received. Over, please. Reeve Emo, second by Councillor Sidney. Turn over to Reeve Emo for his report.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to council and staff. We had a meeting on the 14th of September. It was an electronic meeting. And our delegation, after great patience on his behalf, Mr. Heyman from Food Cycler, he had contacted us in January, and then we had to put him off until we had a handle on what was going on with the pandemic. But he made a presentation to us about electric food digester composter that would sit on somebody's counter and it would digest food and turn out soil. So part of what he produced or informed us was that 58% of the food produced in Canada is lost or wasted each year, and that the average Canadian household spends $1,766 on food that is wasted every year, and food waste costs the Canadian economy $49 billion. And each year we create about 56.6 million tons of carbon dioxide through food waste. And so those were things that the committee had been concerned about food waste for some time. And so when he approached us, we really wanted to hear from him. And he indicated that their studies have shown, and this company's been in existence since 2011, that typically 25 to 50% of household waste is organic material, meaning food. And he used them as an example, the city of Ottawa, which is 45%. And he noted quite correctly that landfills are filling up very quickly. And this it's using up capacity. I should note that we recycle 800 tons of goods a year. We landfill 8,100 tons, which is about 17,500 cubic meters. And so that's just to give you a bit of an insight into the tonnage that could be diverted. He gave us some very quick numbers, and with your permission, from Nelson, British Columbia had 150 households in a pilot project from April till June of this year. 15 tons of food waste was diverted in 3 months, which is 30,000 liters of food waste was processed. So they were quite satisfied with it. The cost of the units are about $500, depending on the size of the order. They could be $300, so that is outside of our comfort level financially. And part of what we're doing is, as you can see from the report, is we're going to try and find some funding for the program. In the short term, what I'll do is turn your attention to page 2, and our direction is that we move towards with them 2 units, and they're going to supply us with temporary use of 2 units for a micro pilot project, so we can get some sense of what the actual production is and document it. So we have the candidate selected, and we're in the process. Next meeting, you'll probably see a bylaw come forward authorizing us to go into an agreement. We felt it best to get into an agreement with them because they are lending us their equipment, and we want to make sure that we protect both the recipient and the company. So if you move on through the minutes, you move to 7.1, the landfill report. Winter hours are in effect now. No longer open late on Thursday evenings. I'm just repeating that. We talked about it last month as well. Household hazardous waste closed on the 29th of August and collected just under 12,000 liters of hazardous material, which is down approximately 3,000 liters from last year, which I don't think is surprising given that we weren't in operation for 6 weeks of the year. We are still looking at extending the depot days of operation on a limited basis. So staff will be consulting with our municipal partners. Recycling collection, there's still some adjusting to the new collection program. One of the issues is the use of clear plastic bags, clear blue plastic bags or a light blue color to contain recyclable material. That causes difficulty because the processing equipment can't rip those open. And so it has to be a lot of handwork. And if we produce too much volume into the blue boxes, we're going to be charged extra. So we're going to embark on a little bit of education around that. Weekly cardboard collection has been reinstated for the downtown businesses. Tara is reviewing our processing contract, and we'll be bringing some information in the future. I must comment, Tara has done a great job of repurposing and tidying up their yard. If you'll go by, you'll notice that the brush and weeds and Manitoba maples have all been scraped away and a fence is up. I know that they've spent about $3 million and they're putting a new roof on, which is worth about $650 million. We've had some conversations with them about their work, so we're very excited about that. They have about 4 municipalities who have contracts with in our area at this point, and they're looking for more. They have some contracts in South Grenville and I believe Carlton Place area. So they're doing well in terms of attracting new contracts. We are going to be creating a 2021, the time-honored collection calendar magnet that we send out with the people that fix the refrigerator. So those will be going out. And that is all that I can report to you, Your Worship. We did not have a closed session. And I can move on to October the 5th, if that's okay. I was unable to chair the meeting. I somehow had gotten mixed up and was in my car, so I was able to log in by phone, and the mayor graciously sat in for me. And I'll take you down to item number 6 on the October 5th meeting. The ministry's proposal to update the Ontario Food and Organic Waste Policy Statement. If you want to go on to the website, comments can be received until November the 14th. And we feel at this point, the staff feel it, and I think we've been able to confirm it, that we are under the threshold of population requirement for any upcoming changes. But we're going to take a closer look at it, and they'll be bring back more information to us in the next at the next committee meeting. I'll take you over to item number 7. A grinding tender was released on September 29th, and it'll close next week on the 20th. We're also having staff contact the surrounding municipalities to determine if a larger joint tender is a viable option. It wasn't able to be put together this year, just simply because it was approached a little too late in the year. The last of the household hazardous waste was sent off September 15th, and the automotive batteries are being picked up as well. Recycling collection, again, we're just waiting on Ontario. Collection itself is going smoother. Sorry, recycling processing with Ontario. And we've been randomly selected for a 2019 Blue Box data call audit. And they come in, PricewaterhouseCoopers come in and take a look at our operation. And with that, I would also, just 8.2 is just a little more information saying that we've had communication with Food Recycler. We've been able to select community living to be our pilot project, and they have 2 residences, so they'll put 1 in each residence. And our 2020 priorities, we moved them forward to 2021. 2021, our priorities would be a reuse center, new tires for the loader. We're anticipating, and based on last year, noting that the loader, the tires weren't as effective in the winter as they could have been, and we'll be wanting to change those out. Looking for a site vehicle to do a little carrying fuel up to the equipment if it's on the face, and also just some carting stuff around the site. You can't always throw it in the bucket of something and take it somewhere, and some off-site work as well. There's need for a vehicle, so we're looking around for a used vehicle from one of our own internal departments or somewhere else. Easements, that's a 5-year program. You'll remember those easements are the change where we're going from a series of drilled wells downstream from the waste site to collect leachate, to using the Bonshire River as a testing point, but we have to acquire the groundwater easements for the properties in between. I believe there's something like 20 or 21. So we're putting it in as the budget, making it a 5-year program, so that it's an expected figure. The figure essentially is to cover legal fees and surveys and registering the easements and things like that. The tipping fees are roughly 200,000. This will affect the overall budget, so we're behind, and again, because of the 6 weeks. So again, we had a discussion. If you turn the page to page 4, 8.5 clear recycling bags with a multi-residence apartment, and our staff is going to have a conversation with the landlord about education first, and secondly, if there's a different means of collecting. And again, we did not have a closed session, and thank you to the mayor for operating the meeting on my behalf. I imagine staring at one or three of my triple chins off my phone because it was in my lap sitting on the side of the road was probably quite a distraction, and I apologize for that.
Not a problem at all. Any questions or comments? I'm happy to report that, as Reeve Emo had mentioned, community living will have the pilot project done in 2 different locations. And of course, they have staff on all times, and they'll be coming back with good reports to us. Secondly, the company is going to be providing us with the pilot project. We'll be doing all the training and this type of thing. So it sounds like it's a win-win situation that way. So anyway, I think it's something that needs to be looked at, in that the province is starting to push for green recycling right across the province. So we might be a wee bit ahead of the curve on this, that's a good thing. So other than that, Revimo.
I'm sorry, I may have misspoke. I believe I thought I'd said 650,000 approximately for the roof for Mterra. I have a note saying someone thinks I said 650 million, so I apologize. That would be quite a roof. It would probably cover the whole town for that, but it's 650,000 for their approximately for their roof. They just issued a tender.
You're only off by 500 and some million. So
well, 7,000%.
Anyway, any other comments? Hearing none, all in favor? Carried. Okay. The Renfrew Town Council supports in principle an agreement with Food Cycler for a 6-month mini pilot program for the disposal of organic waste, subject to receipt and consideration of a formal agreement. Over, please. BBMO, second by Councillor Sidney. Any further questions? Okay, hearing none. All in favor? Carried. Okay, the Director Aston's report dated October 5th, 2020, concerning the purchase of an 8-foot 6-inch XV2 Series V plow for V15-2014 Chev Silverado 1-ton be received. Over, please. Councillor Koulis, second by Councillor Hines. Maybe turn over to Director Aston for a short report.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Eady, to council. This, unfortunately, winter is coming, and our 2020 budget did include the replacement of a V plow for vehicle 2000 or for vehicle V15, which is a 2014 Chevy Silverado. So we had budgeted 12,000 in budget. We did receive 2 quotes. One was for 10,428, and the other one was for 11,697. So we're proposing the purchase of the plow from Twin Equipment at the cost of $10,611.53, inclusive of non-refundable HST. So that's something that that came up as a requirement through the budget, and we do have a rolling stock fund in our capital budget that would pay for that.
Any questions or comments on this? Councillor Koulis. You're on mute, Councillor Koulis.
Thank you, Your Worship. This V plow that's going on a 6-year-old truck, I assume that truck would be due for replacement likely in the next 4 to 5 years. Would I be right?
The trucks are on a 10-year cycle, so 2024 would be approximately the age. And this plow had been inherited from another vehicle, so they get exchanged at the same rate that the trucks get exchanged.
Okay, so this plow would then, in 4 years' time, would be pulled off that truck and put on whatever we replace it with.
That's correct.
And do we go 10 years with plows as well, usually?
Mostly at least 10 years, I would say. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, hearing none. All in favor? Carried. Okay, the Director Aston's report dated October 5th, 2020 concerning the purchase of an 8-foot 6-inch. Oh, I think we did that one already. Sorry. Similar but different. The Renfrew Town Council authorized the Department of Development Works to purchase a new 8-foot 6-inch XV2 series V plow for the V15 2014 Chev Silverado 1-ton from Twin Equipment in the amount of $10,611.53 inclusive of non-refundable HST. Over, please. Councillor Hines, second by Councillor Jemison. Again, any questions or comments? Hearing none. All in favor? Carried. Okay. The REVEMO review, the REVEMO review, the update from Eastern Ontario Regional Network ORN. Over, please. REVEMO, seconded by Councillor Hines. We'll turn over to REVEMO for the report.
Thank you very much. And Clerk Ballmer, do you have this on a screen share?
Yes, I do. I'll bring it up now.
Great, thank you. Thank you. ERN came to County Council on the last council meeting to talk about this. We've asked them a couple of times to appear in the last about the last 18 months just to keep us up to date. So the phase one, and just the next slide, please. Phase one, it was a project that cost the county $848,000. The total households in the county are 3,900, or it's 39,000, I'm sorry, and 29,000 of them were covered up to 10 megabytes, which represented 74.5%. ERN, when they started the project, wanted to have 90%, but unfortunately, given our geography, that didn't happen. So the project investment was 15 million. Business parks was an add-on because of some of the savings in the construction, and it was 2.2 million. And return on investment is 18 to 1. And so I think they're very proud of it, and as are we, because it was a new program. Nobody else had ever done one before on that large group. As you know, the area is about the size of the province of Nova Scotia, and it's pretty diverse, where you run from the CNL down to Cornwall, across to Haliburton, and over to down to Prince Edward County. So if you take a look at that in terms of geography, but also in terms of the economy, the requirements for broadband at CNL is quite different than the requirements for broadband and capacity of say Palmer Rapids. So just to give you a sense of the size of the work. And next, please. So the technology, mobile broadband, types of devices in the first project was cell phones, tablets, mobile apps, browsing, and social media. And next slide, please. And then fixed broadband, when you're talking about it, it's fiber, DSL, fixed wireless and satellite. So business applications, school research, online learning, government services, home Wi-Fi, Netflix, and streaming. Netflix and streaming has grown to such an extent that when this project was put together in 2010, we felt we had enough capacity to outlast demand for a number of years. In some areas, we're very quickly exceeding our demand. I think we're no strangers to having a committee meeting or a council meeting and having flickering connectivity or voices going really slow and dragged out, or frozen features. So it's not surprising. It's surprising it happened as quickly as it did. Next slide, please. The current technology base is 4G, and the networks were scaled, and I'll say it's a Lego model, so that you could keep adding to meet today's needs and then to evolve. Towers will be constructed throughout the region, and that's one of the questions that'll be coming up a little later on. So ERN is currently evaluating the proposals, and details will be shared pretty soon. the contract will be let. And then just the next one, please. Further information about it. There's some excellent websites. I also have a report that I just received from them, a draft. They've asked me to take a look at and offer some comments, so it should be out in the next month. We asked them for a library of terms and about what does CRTC do, how do they enforce it, what's the benefit of wireless, are there any negative effects, long-term studies showing negative health effects, because as you're aware, as soon as anybody starts talking about cell coverage and broadband, you have some people who will start flooding you with emails with interesting documents, and it makes it difficult or challenging for council and council members and staff to get some grounding on the basics. So we've asked them, and they're in the process of putting it together. And I saw a draft this morning. I haven't gone through all the links yet. There's something like 36 links, so I was just going to go through them and have a look to make sure they're applicable. Roma is also working on a toolkit for rural Ontario, and it will be issued prior to the Roma conference in January. So there should be a good selection of information for councils and municipal staff in the next little while. And if you can move to the next slide, please. So right now, this new cell project, there was a gap analysis completed, and they're trying to achieve 99% coverage in Eastern Ontario, 95% coverage in Eastern Ontario where people live, work, and travel, and then 85% coverage in Eastern Ontario where people live and work, which can support video conferencing, movie streaming, and more data-intensive applications. So there's a layering of the project. And next slide, please. It talks about cost. And so the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus and the Mayor's Caucus are kicking in approximately 10 million. Canada is 71 million. Ontario is 71 million. There's a matter of negotiating the agreements at this point. And the telecom service providers, 61 million, although there is some suggestion that might raise to about 67 million. So you can see it's a pretty substantial contract. And this is where the municipalities will have another partnership evolving for them. Is there will be some demand for new towers to support the cell project, and they'll be asking for access voluntarily to municipal land for the towers. So they're going to be formally asking municipalities to take a look at their land holdings to see what can be provided to the project to ensure that we have adequate coverage. So next, and that's what that slide said, sorry. So they have an idea where the towers are best situated. So they'll also be approaching, but they want municipalities to take some lead and some responsibilities in it. And then again, there's some permitting things that permitting applications that have to be submitted and completed. So they'll be asking for that. So they've been rolling right along. They've hired new staff as of March 30th. The RFP was issued. It closes in September. The transfer payment agreement was signed in May. That was the provincial one. The federal one is still working on. The contracts are being negotiated between now and February. And construction will start in the spring of 2021 with a 5-year the completion in 2025. So it's not a matter of just flicking the switch in 2025 and walking away from it. They'll be monitoring the contract to ensure compliance, and then also to ensure that the service providers share as much of the infrastructure as possible. And if you could just move forward, please. Next is there we go. And so the CRTC, we were fortunate, the Wardens Caucus made a presentation, I can say 5 years ago, and about this being an essential service and the 50-10. And so at that time, The CRTC made a ruling that 90% of all Canadians have access, as you can see, to 50 up and 10 down. Right now, and ERN has completed their analysis in 2019 that shows that 46% of homes within the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus, so that's 103 municipalities, approximately 750,000 people have access of 5010. You factor in the 13 members of the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus with another population of about 200,000. It gets you to roughly 100, or gets you roughly to 1 million. That excludes the city of Ottawa. So 63% of those homes have access to 5010. And next, please. And so the cost analysis was completed, and you have to remember it's 50,000 square kilometers, a little over that for this. And the estimate to bring it to 95% service compliance is there. Tried to take all 13 members of the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus, their upper tier, and ensure that 90% of each of the counties and upper tiers demands were met. And they've estimated the cost for the 1 gig as well. And Kim, please. So to do 5010 to 95% is 500 million to 750 million. So that estimated cost for the county would be 51 million. To do 1 gig would be 1.2 billion or 1.6. And the estimated cost to the county would be $200 million. So as you can see, it's based on the estimate of $30 per meter for fiber. So that's a lot of meters of fiber. Kim, please. Because what happens is you get constantly hit by, you need fiber in the ground. Agreeable, it's the best possible solution, but it's not something that we feel comfortable suggesting that we can afford. And so with that, the two analyses were developed. So wireline and wireless are completed at the bottom, defined for you. And next, please. And again, just explains a little bit more about point of presence and wireline, wireless, Wi-Fi. And Kim. So the analysis talked about demand mapping, supply mapping, gap analysis, solution modeling, and the costing and the market failure. So the market failure analysis is pretty easy. Companies are sitting waiting until there is a significant public investment before they jump in. And again, that bothers us. Bothers me as a citizen, but bothers me as a member of a council. Demand mapping. Interestingly enough, given the amount of land that's not got a house on it, or a cottage, or a farm, for the whole area, which is the 103 municipalities plus the 13 of the mayor's caucus, 41% of that doesn't need to be covered because there is no demand or limited demand. So you try and assure that there is cell coverage to make a phone call, as opposed to cell coverage for someone to sit there and run a significant business concern out of their basement or out of their backyard. So those are the kinds of things that had to go into those, just as an example. So Kim, and again, demand mapping, it just defines what those are, and I'll give you a couple seconds to take a look at that. So you'll note they used a 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer grid, which replaces the old hexes. Anybody that's been involved in it knows the hexagon model that was supplied by the CRTC. So again, coverage is where they are located, as opposed to just a blanket coverage of all the square acreage. Kim, please. And I can't even begin to tell you the little dots, but if you take a look at them, you'll see the you'll see the gradients that were used. And next, please. And again, coverage versus capacity. And this information was was brought forward by using MPAC and some municipal mapping as well. And again, talks about the 40% and the 1 gig demand and capacity. You can see that there's a significant deficit there in terms of the capacity. Kim, please. And then the demand far exceeds the ability to supply it. And so that's why the project has been put together, has been scaled to meet the needs of our 13 municipal partners and the mayor's caucus as well. And Kim? And again, this is more information. It's just to let you know about demand. And so there was a slight change towards as you can see in May, the pandemic drove home the concept that 5010 was probably not as adequate in May of 2020 as it was in May of 2019. As more people stayed home to study and to work, the approach was brought forward that we probably need to do a 1 gig project as opposed to 5010, thinking that 5010, while probably adequate for most people in our region, may not be adequate in a year or two from now. And part of it is to build a system that's reliable, build a system that's expandable as needed in the future. So Kim? So the next steps are pretty apparent, and I can try to answer any questions. And as they say, the model can be replicated. ERN has been active in working down east with one of the provinces for a region. There's been some international inquiries and some assistance as well. So they've set up a separate arm to market, probably not market's not likely the right word, to respond to inquiries and to offer assistance. So within this model, it also allows smaller providers to, I'll use this term, latch on to the larger system once it's built. So it doesn't exclude the regional and smaller providers in favor of the larger ones. So that was one of the things that ERN has always guarded quite vociferously as they move forward through the last project and this project. So thank you. Sorry, Your Worship, we can't hear you.
Sorry about that. Said, any questions or comments from anyone? I'm hearing none. Thank you very much, Revimo, for that report. This is a very important project for Renfrew County, as we see the movement of people now that are kind of coming out of the city and buying houses here and working from home, not just in Renfrew, but in the whole area. So it's becoming more important every day. So anyway, thank you again. There was no more questions or comments. All in favor? Carried. Okay. Next was the minutes of the Renfrew Public Library Board meeting held June the 16th, 2020 be received. Mover, please. Councillor Sidney, seconded by Councillor Evans. Either Councillor Sidney or Councillor Evans want to give the report? Okay, it seems like neither one want to give the report.
I was on mute. Unfortunately, I wasn't at that meeting due to a conflict with a work schedule. If anybody has any questions, feel free. I'll try to answer them. But just to give an update as to what the library has been up to, you'll notice, I believe it says June is the date. That's because the board does not meet over the summer. So we've just recently gone back to virtual meetings. But the library staff has been continuously updating the library, working through everything. They are open again. They are busy. We're looking at new opportunities with neighboring municipalities, like we've done with a number of other departments within the town as well. So it's the library is definitely is a booming thing, and I think a lot of people don't realize the number of people that access it and that utilize it with the hotspots. You know, there were people doing exams for university in their car outside during COVID because they were able to access the Wi-Fi. And there'll be a lot more news coming because it is coming up to the 100th anniversary of the Renfrew Public Library. So that definitely there'll be a lot more news coming. And if anybody has any questions, myself or maybe Councillor Evans can try to answer, but unfortunately I was not there.
Okay, any questions? Okay, hearing none, all in favor? Carried. Next one, the library activity project reports for June, July, and July to September 2020 be received. Over, please. Councillor Evans, second by Councillor Sidney. Again, this report just tells us what's been going on, so.
You can see how busy they are.
Yeah. So anyway, is there any questions on this? Okay. Hearing none, all in favor? Carried. Okay. Okay. The Renfrew Town Council convened in closed session for the following matter pursuant to Section 239 of the Municipal Act 2001. Pursuant to Section 239(2)(c) of Municipal Act 2001, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board. More specifically, to discuss matters with respect to acquisition of land known municipally as 436 Lisgar Avenue, disposition of land town owned, land fronting on Gibbons Road. Over, please. Councillor Evans, second by Councillor Coulis. All in favor? We're now in closed session. We'll give